God reveals Himself through the lens of your story.
See, God could send angels to do the work, but He doesn't. Because He needs us, those who have struggled through this brokenness on our planet, who have discovered hope and light, and to share that with other people who are looking for the same thing.
Today, God is using testimonies. Why? Because God wants the message to be personalized. God wants the message to be accepted through the lens of someone's experience. This is why it's so important to inspire others through stories of how God worked in our lives.
We went on a camp out with some camping club or something, and I had to get up and tell my testimony. But, you know, I talked to them, and I was just like on cloud nine forever. And to me, that, you know, when you really are converted, that's what happens. You have a story to tell, and you want everyone to know that story.
Well, it is very important for us to share your testimony because that's how we know that God is at work. When you think about the Bible, it's a book of stories. It's a book of testimonies. Sometimes these are stories of people who failed. Sometimes these are stories how these people who failed got back on the track because of God's grace.
The most important thing for people to realize is that we're supposed to give our testimony. You know, when you think of the story in Mark chapter 5 of the demoniac, he was transformed by the grace of God. This was a man that was scaring people to death with the demons that he was possessed with. But Jesus transformed his life, and all he wanted to do was follow Jesus around. But Jesus looked at him and he said, "No, I want you to go back and tell your people what I've done for you." Now, when you go look a little later on in that chapter and you look in Luke 8, where it tells a little bit more of the story, that man went back to his town, and when Jesus came back again, the entire town was waiting for him. We all have a testimony, and I think for people to share testimonies is one of the greatest things we can do.
And so God needs us to share our stories, to share our testimony, because somebody else might be looking for just the right words, just the right story, to pull them out of the brokenness, out of the darkness, and into the marvelous light of Jesus.